Assalamu alaikum students. How are you people? Are you all right? Fresh? How is weather today? It's pleasant. Hot? No, it's windy. It's cloudy. Yeah, how is it? Oh, it's cold. No. All right. Good. So students, let's come back to our lecture. Remember, what did we do in the last class? Yes, we talked about how to use teaching aids, effective teaching aids, right? And a very important lecture. Today we are going to start. This lecture is in continuation with the previous lecture. We started talking of effective teaching aids, and today, of course, we will complete this topic that we started in the last week, how to use teaching aids effectively. Why? Because we are teachers, we are of course having this course TEFL, and in this course we learn how to use teaching aids and of course what are the available teaching aids. I mean, we talked about 5 or 6 teaching aids I gave you in the last class, and I remember you all know it. The point is, yes, these are the available that we talked about and we will be talking about in today's lecture. But the point is, yes, with the technology, when technology improves, of course, more, in fact, teaching aids would be part of teaching systems. And we need to learn these things because it's of course, it's the need. Without, in fact, knowing these teaching aids and particularly learning how to use them, you cannot in fact be successful, right? So therefore a good teacher knows how to tries to know what are the available teaching aids, and then also he tries to use them, right? And if some teaching aids work well, they help the learners, so you see you can use them, right? And if while using some teaching aids, if you find some problems, so you can in fact think over it and see what are the prevailing problems and how these problems can be addressed. Clear? So as usual, let's review the previous lecture. So we talked about in the last lecture what are the teaching aids, right? And we started with chalkboard, we call it blackboard, right? And of course nowadays we have whiteboard where we write with board marker, right? And what we did, that we talked about advantages and disadvantages of using these aids, particularly chalkboard, and we discussed how to use chalkboard if there is no other available resource, if there is no available teaching aid, right? Still you will visit some institutions and you will find that chalkboard is still in, but in most of the institutions now educationists have realized that writing on the chalk consumes more time. People have realized that it is not easy to write on the blackboard, right? And that is of course dangerous for your health because that dust goes inside, of course, and it disturbs the teacher, and obviously that dust causes many skin problems, of course throat problems and all that, right? Therefore you see we in fact the educationists recommended whiteboard, or recommended replacing whiteboard with the chalkboards, in fact. Now whiteboards, yes, they are, I mean, again, as far as transportability is concerned, that both are difficult to transport, but writing on the whiteboard is faster than the chalkboard. And we saw how to use these chalkboards, right? How to use these teaching aids, where to put them, right? Where the teacher should stand and all that. And we need to choose the most appropriate visual aid for your purpose and context. You have to decide on what is, of course, the situation, what is the topic that you are teaching, and accordingly you can do that. Sometimes, of course, if you are not a computer expert, right? And if you are unable to use PowerPoint well, so the transparencies OHP can serve you. And it is said that for a very complicated situations, complicated details that you cannot put on PowerPoint for some reasons, those things can be given on that OHP in fact. So use these OHP or the whiteboard effectively. And similarly, we talked about flip chart. Of course, it's very important when there is of course a light problem, right? And if you want to give some activity to students in group activities, so flip chart can be used. And flip chart, of course, that when you write on it, you need to have a proper pen for it, and that the data what you have written can be reused, whereas in blackboard, or we cannot do that. Similarly on whiteboard we cannot do that. Whatever is erased is gone forever, right? The point is we need to learn how to use these teaching aids successfully, and how to use these teaching aids efficiently, because the purpose of these teaching aids, of course, definitely to help facilitate the learner. And of course, these teaching aids help the teacher as well, that how to teach that language, right? So dear students, this was a short review of the previous lecture. Today, we'll talk about PowerPoint, right? Now, the point is, what is PowerPoint, right? So, PowerPoint is an application software, right? Again, it is, we also call it MS PowerPoint, right? So MS Word, MS means Microsoft. Clear? So generally, of course, in Pakistan we use Microsoft. Over there, maybe you are familiar with other softwares, in fact, with Apple's software, but generally, in fact, overall, we use Microsoft. So for this, we have MS PowerPoint is there, right? Therefore, we'll be talking about PowerPoint. When you use PowerPoint for teaching, how to use PowerPoint. So I told you it is a software, and what do we call this? Application software, right? It is different from your operating system. Operating system in a computer is what? A system software. Operating system operates the system, whereas this is an application software. We use it and you prepare presentations if you are teaching business communication. If you are making a presentation, so PowerPoint helps you. If you are teaching language, PowerPoint does help you. So point is how to use PowerPoint. First of all, make certain that projector is focused, the multimedia. When you have a PowerPoint, of course, you have to have a multimedia. Again, multimedia is not cheap. It's expensive, but it must be set well when you have the slides. Leave word slides on longer than action slides. Is that clear? This is what means that the word slides, some slides are word slides, in fact, when you use word images. Fine. So leave word slides on longer than action slides. Used to reinforce and highlight. Clear? Because of course when you make slides, why we make slides? Yes, we make slides to make things prominent. We make slides to help our learners well. We make slides to save our time, because once the slide is there, so learner would know the things well, right? And of course it's projector. The projector projects it, magnifies it, right? So a bigger classes, a halls, even this multimedia helps there. Know how to use, how to change bulbs, troubleshoot, etc. For example, if you are using PowerPoint presentation, so you need to know how to move on to the next slide, how to magnify it, how to maximize it. Fine. So these things you must know when you are using PowerPoint for your what? Teaching language. So here, what is the construction of PowerPoint presentations? Most of you might know it. That, again, the one thing I want to share, that the computer is a teacher. It teaches you, my dear students, and now it's an age that it's difficult to survive without knowing this technology. Even you are a teacher. Maybe some people say that, well, of course, why I have to teach language, why I need to learn computer. No, the time has gone. Now it's an age of course, IT, age of computer. So if you want to be a successful teacher, so you need to know these, teaching aids, and you need to learn how to use these teaching aids. It's an important, right? So construction is that use colored background, of course, is important, right? You have this option and you can do it easily, right? Because colors attract the students. The color, in fact, of course, when you use good colors, color combination, these relieve the tension of the, what we call them, the audience. Darker for computer generated slides, light can be brighter in the room. This is again important, that which color should we use? Should we use darker colors or should we use light colors, in fact? Then keep slides simple. Again, it's important, right? Should only take a moment to figure out what slide is about to come. Clear? You can set the timing of the slides. Again, this is simple, what we call it, how to make slides on PowerPoint. Use graphics and images when appropriate. Whenever you feel that an image can serve the purpose, image can speak more, image can communicate more, use that. It's important. No more than 7 to 10 words to a line and 7 lines to a slide. This is important, right? Uncluttered slides. Don't make your slides messy when you are teaching. When you are using this teaching aid, when you are using this PowerPoint for teaching language, remember that messy things, yes, make students bored. Messy things, messy slides detract the students. Messy slides cannot serve the purpose. So that is important. When you make slides, they should be uncluttered. Use full screen, right? Maximize it. There's a hotkey for it. F5 is the hotkey for slide maximization. Use colored background. Fine, that I have given you already. Maybe it's a repetition of the previous point, that darker colors and light colors. Right? When you wear dress, of course, you know, in winter we prefer wearing dark colors, whereas in summer wearing light colors. So you have to see your text and decide accordingly that what to use. Right? Again, mean simple slides, very simple, that you know it. Fine. Use graphics whenever it is required, and images when appropriate. Fine. And again, things of course mean use short sentences. Short sentences and bullet list, not complete sentence. Of course, on slide, it's an advantage that you can use short sentences. You can use even what? We call them that, you see, short sentences and fragments can be used. Because when you write a sentence on the board, a complete sentence takes you more time. A fragment takes less time, in fact. So you can use that. Fine. And make sure the screen and the image are large enough for all to see. Selection of what? Font size. And how to see it, that which font size would be effective, you have to see. Right? The room where you are teaching that language. Right? A big hall, sometime you see you have a big classroom, so set font size accordingly, right? And when it is a small room, so font size should be as per the requirements, right? Don't use very, very large font size, and don't use very, very small font size, right? So small font size would put the audience in trouble. Even larger font size would be a problem for the students. This is important, right? Sit in the worst seat, fine, in the room, and make sure you can see the slides. I mean, whatever the worst seat in the class is there, you need to sit there and see. Does it, you serve the audience, right? Is it visible or not? Clear? So this is the point, my dear students, that when you, of course, when you write on the slide, you sit in the corner, right? And people, of course, they can see that slide. So therefore, when you, as far as making of slides for your teaching is concerned, it is for all. It is for everybody in the class, right? It is not for only 4 or 5 people. I hope you understand, right? Therefore, while making slides, keep the weakest link in the mind, keep the worst seat in the class, right? From every angle, this PowerPoint slide should be visible. It is important. Then have backup notes in case of slide projector or computer quit. This is very important. You have to have an alternative arrangement. You have to have a backup arrangement. Why? Because when you have a backup arrangement, what happens? You see, you can refer to it once the slides go down, or if in case of any problem, that backup arrangement can help you. One slide, one idea per slide. It's very important, right? Do not write more than 1 point on one slide. Simplicity, I told you, that is an agenda, one point per slide, right? Talking about present simple, for example, so one slide can be only presentation stage. One slide can be practice stage. Of course, if the practice stage needs more slides, you can do it. Similarly, production may have more than one slides. Is that clear? So when you make lesson plan, and if you have to present that, so you can have slides. You can have one slide for aims, one slide for the teaching aids. You can give the picture of those teaching aids, in fact. So here what we are talking about, that one idea per slide. Charts and graphs are also great. They are important. No more than 3 colors per slide. I hope you understand that. You see, when you use many colors, that create problem, right? So one color, it's okay. It's okay, it makes a difference. So dear student, this is what we call it, PowerPoint construction. Now, what are the advantages? If I ask you, by the way, what are the advantages of PowerPoint? Easy to do? Agree? If you are good at computer skills, it's very easy to work on. Right? Working with PowerPoint is the easiest of all. Even on transparency, yes, it's not easy. Whiteboard, you know. Chalkboard, you know it, in fact. If you compare with all the other teaching aids that we have done, so it is more user friendly. It is handy, in fact. Right? What you need to do, you can type on that. Right? I mean, even some teachers have a bad handwriting, so here the computer can save them, in fact. Right? Here you type, but you need to know formatting, how to increase the font size, how to decrease the font size, right? How to highlight text, right? How to change the background color, and in short, how to use PowerPoint well. So advantages are good for large rooms and audience. If it is a big class audience, right? So PowerPoint is the best. Training rooms, in fact, nowadays, multimedia is a must for any training room. For big classes, halls, in fact, every auditorium, you will find now this multimedia is fixed there, and there are also LCDs. Fine. So, therefore, PowerPoint is the best for the big rooms, for the halls. Can be action oriented or words oriented. You can write picture on that. You can show, in fact. A video can be shown, action can be shown. Or you can write word charts on it, right? I mean, you can use different, of course, styles of the words. Allows for reference back to previous slide. The good thing is that you can go back. Like if I find a problem in the slide, I can quickly go back to slide number 1. Clear, students? You understand? So these are some advantages. Now if I move on to disadvantages, see, expensive. Average multimedia costs you 100,000, right? Just multimedia. Then, of course, good one, 150, 200,000. Then you need what? You need computer. You need laptop, right? Then you need care also. You need security of that. And above all, you need power. If there's no power, useless, right? Can be difficult to produce easier with computer graphics. Yes, sometimes it's not easy. Right? And room must be darkened somewhat, yes, because for multimedia, for PowerPoint presentations, darker rooms are required. Requires equipment and knowledge of that, yes, again. You need to know how to adjust multimedia. You need to know how to move on to the next slide, you need to be computer savvy, technology savvy, in fact. It's portable, yes, it's very simple. If it has not been fixed in the class, you can easily port it, right? And of course, order easily changed. Quickly, you can delete one point or you can copy it, cut it and move it at the end. User friendly. right, can be very creative. Of course, if you know computer skills, if you know how to work with computers, so you can be creative. Fine, you can do as much as you can. All right. So my dear student, this is what we call it, the PowerPoint, PPTs in fact, right? And of course, when you're teaching, you need to know basic computer in fact. Particularly you need to know MS Word, right? And obviously MS PowerPoint. MS Access, if you know, that is good, right? So, and it's again, I tell you that it is not difficult, right? If you have a system with you, you can learn. Computer itself teaches you, right? Computer is a good teacher, right? And for you people, because you are going to be language teachers, you'll be in fact trainers of communication skills, so you need to know it, right? In a month's time, I guarantee you, you can learn it. You can learn how to use PowerPoint. You can learn how to use MS Word, and it is a must nowadays, right? And of course, you need to, and majority, of course, most of you know it, I understand, but some of you, in fact, they may have some fear, right? So don't be hesitant, don't be reluctant, right? You can learn it and just try it, learn it. Things would be easy for you. I hope you understand. This is what, my dear students, you see, you have to keep in mind. I hope you understand. Okay. Now moving on to another teaching aid, that is data projectors, smart board. Very important, right? So even the smart board. What comes to your mind when I say smart board? A board that looks smart, right? Or data projectors. Okay, student, well, smart boards are fine, rapidly being integrated into classrooms around the world and are essentially enhanced whiteboards that are used in what? Conjunction with projectors and laptops. Now, see again, I told you the whole thing, blackboard, and then what? Whiteboard. The word board is still there, but now we have a smart board. So again, you see how technology is improving. Maybe after 5 years, we'll have another board, of course, smart board. Fine. So this idea of this smart board, right? Again, one of the teaching aids, right? So what is it? And of course, in Pakistan, there are some schools where these smart boards have been introduced. Some universities also, they have switched over to smart boards, right? But generally, in fact, people are on the whiteboard and they have the multimedia in the class. But of course, very soon, the smart board would be in every class, in every organization. It's a bit expensive nowadays, right? But sooner it would be less expensive and organization would have it. Why we are talking about it? Because it's our future planning, in fact. Maybe, of course, after 5 years, we'll be in an environment where smart board is there. So over there, when you would hear about it, so it would be difficult for you. So smart board, of course, is one of the teaching aids. This allows access to a wide variety of computer-based multimedia content on the board in front of the class. This is again, if you learn, if you know how to use it, so of course you would enjoy it. But if, for example, if you have to use it for the first time, so it would be tough for you, right? So what does it do? It allows access to what? Wide variety of computer-based multimedia content, right? One, the teacher or student is able to touch the surface of the board to control application. Example, nowadays you have touch screens, right? You touch it and of course another window opens. That we can do, right? So this touch screen concept, in fact, Android, is an app software. So we call it application software. So you touch screen, right? In smart board, what happens? The teacher or the student is able to touch the surface of the board to control applications, write notes, and manipulate objects. See, of course, this smart board. Fine. All right. Now, what are the advantages of smart board or data projectors, and what are the disadvantages? Now, advantages, what are these? Good for large rooms and audience, like we talked about in the PowerPoint. Similarly, smart board, a step ahead of what we call it PowerPoint, right? So here it is, of course, ideal for big rooms, right? And of course, large number of audience. Then can be student oriented, of course, because it is there, student can come and they can do that. So it is more student oriented. Allows for references, back information can be saved for later. Clear? Because you can save whatever you have written, you can save it. And quickly you can open it, in fact. Again, in short, more user friendly. It allows you to retrieve information. Lights can be on, yes, in this way. Right? In PowerPoint we saw that lights were off, darker rooms. Lots of websites with free resources. I mean, here it is internet connected board. Another definition, smart board is because there are references. Fine. So it is a board which is connected with the world. Right? And you can see, you can of course lots of websites with free resources. Disadvantages, very expensive. Many students, teachers don't have access to this type of technology. Yeah, of course, it is more expensive than the previous multimedia, right? Then requires equipment and knowledge of that. Again, like we talk about PowerPoint, it requires expertise, trainings. Not portable, that is not portable. Fine, difficult, can be very creative, right? So if you compare, I mean, these two, multimedia, PowerPoint with the smart board, so you will see that smart board is more advanced than the previous one, right? But of course is expensive. Even PowerPoint, the multimedia is expensive, but it is more expensive than the previous one, right? But it is more creative, right? Here you have access to different websites, different resources, right? And of course it is the future, right? And but we need it. Right? We are the future teachers. We need to know that what is it and how can we use it. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages. The other one is audio tape CDs, audio simple, right? Or the compact discs. CD stand for compact disc. Again, it is another important teaching aid, right? So when to use and tips to use. Right? CD is very simple concept. Maybe a university will give you example DVD, and before that we used to have CDs. What are these CDs? Compact discs. Is that clear? So when to use these CDs, right? Particularly suited for language learning, media studies, English literature, etc. These CDs, like you will get DVDs of these lectures, of the handbook. Fine, and you will use that. Clear? So this is when to use it. And valuable when referring to recorded historical events. Martin Luther King's I Have Dream speech. Clear? So again, when to use it. Background music can also be played before class starts and during group activities. Again, it's important. When you have a tape, audio tapes or the CDs, and of course you use computer. So music can be played, right? And it is of course valuable for historical speeches. Tips, check the room and equipment beforehand. When you have this audio tapes, in fact, or the CDs that you have, so room equipment. Can it be heard from the back of the room? It's important, right? Find the right spot on the tape CD and cue it up in advance. If you have to use more than one song in the class, then you need to have a cue. Don't play more than a few minutes of audio at one time. And then, of course, break up longer clips into segments interested with discussions interspersed. Fine? We call it interspersed with discussions or other activities. So, of course, CDs, audio tapes are important. I mean, old was what? Cassette players, right? And we discussed about cassette players and the teaching aids, that they are easy, of course, right? We need power for them, but the technology is moving. In fact, now we have more gadgets available, right? So now, of course, we need to learn how to use, in fact, these compact discs and what are the tips to use these compact discs. Clear, students? You understand? These are very simple things, and if you want to learn more, simple, Google out and you will get much material. Now video, audio mean hearing. Now it's time for the video, and for this you need DVDs. right? So you may have song of CDs. On CDs you have song, but now you have DVDs. Like you will get lectures on DVDs, right? So when to use? Adds a dimension not available through audio alone. Help students to visualize. Like, I mean, if I give my lectures to you on CD, you can only listen to my lectures, right? So they are only mean, or in audio tapes you can listen. Here mean DVDs are there, of course, the video tapes. Clear? So here mean you can see me and you can listen to me, in fact. So essential when what? Illustrating things that are impractical to do in real life. Is that clear? So of course these are when to use these videotapes, because when you need what? Illustration. Essential when illustrating things that are impractical to do in real life. Particularly suited for language learning, media studies, and etc. Fine. And valuable when referring to recorded historical events. So these are what mean when to use these DVDs. I hope you understand. And there are some tips. Same as what? For the CDs or audio tapes. Right? Equipment needs to be checked. You need to know the equipment and you need to check it beforehand. And again, it comes in the planning, when you plan your lesson plan, and you need to know which teaching aid I have to use. If you decide on the whiteboard, then of course the availability of whiteboard and its position of whiteboard is important. If you have decided for videotape, the CD or audio tapes, DVDs, fine, then you need to check things, fine. And then of course, can image be seen from the back of the room? It is important. Sometime maybe of course you sit right and in front of me and you listen to me, my dear students. So what happens? At time maybe if I turn, you find it bad at times, it happens. Clear? So when I talk to you, I try to, you see, if you move from, you are sitting here in fact. I hope you understand. You're with me? Yes. So you are sitting here, I can talk to you. But if you move, if you bunk off the class, what will happen? You see, it would be difficult for you. I hope you understand. Yes, students? So that's why, of course, if for example, sometime you go out for a while, it's okay. It doesn't make any difference. I understand. Right? But the point is, if you make it your habit that every minute you go out, so what's the point in my sitting here? Clear? So I am talking to you. You are here, in fact. You are in front of me. Right? I talk to you. And your presence is a must. If you go out, whom should I talk? Clear? So my dear students, yes, your presence motivates me. When I talk, yes, you are motivated. Fine? When I ask question, you reply. And if you have any queries, you ask and I reply. So it's a two-way process. Fine? So therefore, if you are using a teaching aid, dear students, you need to know how to use it in the class. And first of all, you make sure that, you see, this is an aid, this is a teaching aid, and how can I use it? Effective use of that aid. You see, of course, helps the learners. And for that, and to use it, mind you, you need practice. And you need to practice again and again. Practice more, things will be fine. Initially, you might find it hard, and it happens. It's just quite natural. You might struggle, for example, even with the first time in my I started teaching in 2002. So, of course, I use this cassette player for the teaching purpose for the first time. It was hard initially. It was difficult for me to press those buttons. But after a month, I found it very easy. And earlier, I used to in fact envy people, who were in the, of course, who were expert in using these buttons on the cassette player. But now, of course, now the cassette player is not in, but the point is even working with laptops or your computer. Now these, of course, your mobile sample, the small. See, everything is there. So initially it was difficult for you to work with this touch screen, Android, but now you are used to. Initially it was difficult for you to work without this mouse. You were used to working with the desktops. And now it's the time that you're working with laptops, in fact. Clear? So even now if somebody provides you an external mouse, you find it difficult, right? Because you are used to working with this internal laptop. Of course, the fingers is the mouse. Clear? So this is what it happens. Slowly and gradually you learn, provided you are willing to learn, right? So therefore, every new teaching aid, you need to learn how to use it, and which is very easy. Once you learn it, so it's a long-term investment. So dear students, that of course important is you talking about these video tapes or DVDs. And queuing up is also important, right? And break viewing into short segments. Again, whenever you have to stop, take a pause. At times, of course, you're talking about a dialogue, so over there at times you need pauses, right? And at times you see that some students are not with you, you have to take everybody on board. So for this, you need to see where to pause, where to move on, where to be slow, where to be fast. Clear? So these are some things that you must keep in mind. Podcast, very important. Now what is it? Maybe a new thing for you. No, you must have heard about it. Very important. Yes? Well, students. So teaching aid is another one of the teaching aid is podcast, right? Again, of course, the people who are tech savvy, in fact, people who are for example, nowadays, of course, you have these iPhones, you have in fact iPod, you have MP3 players. So all these are also, a crane, you can call them modern teaching aids, right? And now, what is a podcast? A series of digital media files, right? Usually digital audio or video that is made available for download via web. You can download so many things. For example, the teachers, my dear students, you are in fact having this course, and you will be in teaching, you will be in training. So over there, definitely you have to download so many things, right? So these podcasts, of course, they are a series of digital media files, right? And for example, nowadays in Pakistan, the YouTube has been banned, but even YouTube was a very good source, right? From YouTube you can download some videos, and some are very, very effective videos, right? And those videos can be used for teaching purposes, and those videos, my dear students, can help you in being a good teacher, right? Because in the countries where this YouTube is on, you can write any topic and you will find video lectures on that, right? So that is a great source of learning when you see that. So this is what they are the podcast. And what possibilities? Lesson could be downloaded on iPod, iPhone, MP3 players. No, the point is, why we need to download this lesson plan? Some people have their reservations, right? Some people are of the view that, you see, once you download a lesson plan, you do not put efforts. So there are some people who are against this technology. They say that technology has made people comfortable. They say that technology has marred creativity. They say that technology, in fact, of course, you see, may not help students or teachers that much, because they can easily download material and you can use it. But the point is, yes, once you download a lesson plan, for example, a video on that lesson plan, so that really helps you if you use it positively. Mind you, there is nothing wrong, right, with this word, this iPod. So nothing is wrong in this world. Thinking makes it so. Right? So if you have technology, if you have access to technology, the latest technology, so you can use it for the positive purposes, right? The downloaded lectures, the downloaded lesson plans, right? The downloaded videos on of course teaching skills of language will definitely help you being students of the TEFL to improve your teaching. Mind you, that teaching is not now, of course, it's an easy job. There was a time that, of course, people used to think that teaching is very easy job. You have a book with you, and of course that the book, you use it for 5 years, and even there are some teachers, they say, well, I know the page number of that book. The point is, those are what traditional approaches. Right? Now it's a time that even teachers have to update themselves, right? They would lag behind if they do not update themselves. So upgradation of teachers is a must. You need to update yourself, right? And how you update, the easiest way is that if you go with the technology, right? If you do not go with the current technology, you will lag behind, right? Your students would be ahead of you. So that's why I mean technology is important, right? And of course in this way iPod is one of those, right? So therefore once you have this technology and you learn how to use it, obviously you feel more privileged, better than, and of course that saves you from embarrassment. At time it happens that you face a student who in fact are of course they are tech savvy, they have technology and they know how to use it, but you are not, if being teacher, if you are not, right? So therefore my dear students, this is whatever the available technology is, you see it in your context. For example, you are the language teachers, you have to teach English to the students, so how can we use that technology for the purpose, right? So therefore this in fact podcasts of course are important. What are the advantages? Fine. And what are the disadvantages for those students who are very, very tech oriented, right? Because it saves you time, it makes you more creative, and it gives you much, right? Because if you know this technology, so you can explore things, and at times, maybe of course spending 2 hours, you can do a lot, you can get more, because you know how to browse different websites and how to find materials in fact. So if you don't rely on technology, so you might be in a sea, you might be in a difficult situation, right? So technology savvy people, right, they learn fast, they do their projects more smartly in fact. So you can say that tech savvy people become smart learners, right? Smart, of course, smart theory, yes. So that's why of course my dear student, that technology and you being teachers, you need to know that available technology, have access with the latest technology and convey it to others, to the students, if they can easily afford, if there is no problem, right? There are some people who are against this, of course, current trend of mobiles and all that. They feel that these mobiles have made people immoral. Yes, it's a debatable thing. In fact, there are some people who are using it for some other purposes, and even like generally you see in Pakistan, of course, sometime on Muharram and of course on Rabiul Awwal, or some mobiles remain suspended, right? Why? Because you see, these mobiles are being used for other activities. Fine. So every technology has its pros and cons, but what we see in our case, that if you think being a teacher of foreign language, so and if you know how to use this technology, you would be of course in a better position to do your job well, and you would be in a position to help your learners well. Disadvantages, yes, software will be needed, which is expensive. This podcast software, of course, needed. Maybe in the third world countries, sometimes you have the fake softwares. Also, training might be needed to use the program. Yes, because this one, my dear student, when podcasts are there, you need to be trained. Training is required, and once you are trained, you can do that. So this is what, my dear student, there are some teaching aids. Let's review this, of course, this lectures that we talk about. Now, my dear students, in these 2 lectures, lecture number 14 and 15, we talk about teaching aids, a very important area, right? And that's why in every lesson plan you have to specify which teaching aids to be used. And once you specify a teaching aid, you need to know how to use these teaching aids, right? So what we talked about in these two lectures, that we have a teaching aid. The oldest one is, we call it chalkboard, right? We also call it blackboard, right? So what we did, we saw its pros and cons, that what are the advantages of using a chalkboard and what are the disadvantages of using chalkboard. And we saw that it is the oldest technology, because all the available technologies that you have nowadays, my dear students, they have been derived from that. Now the point is, what are the problems with the chalkboard? Why educationists in fact are against this chalkboard? There are many reasons for it. Some say it is difficult to write on board, right? And some say, of course, when you have to draw some charts, some tables, so it's not easy to draw all those things on the whiteboard, on the blackboard, right? And then of course you write with chalk and you turn your back to the audience, and you need to put more efforts, more energy is required when you write with chalk. Advantages are there, it's cheap, right? It's very cheap, of course. Chalk is not expensive, board itself is not expensive, and even if the board is not there, the wooden board is not there, you can have the other, of course, steel board can be maintained, or even if that is not available, simple, you can paint a rectangular part of the wall and you can use it as a board, right? So it is the oldest and again the cheapest, fine, of what the teaching aids. And why we cannot forget it, why we cannot reject it, because every new technology, if you go back, there is a link between the board and the available technology that we have nowadays, right? So that is what the chalkboard is there. It is also health hazardous, because that chalk can cause you a lungs problem. Chalk can cause, of course, throat problem. Chalk can disturb the students, right? And even you have to erase the chalk. Maintenance of board is also important. If you want to have a good look of the board, so proper maintenance of the board is a must. Then, of course, move on. We have whiteboard, of course. We need markers, right on the board. And speed on chalkboard, speed of writing on chalkboard and speed of writing on whiteboard, there is a reasonable difference you will find. On chalkboard, you can write faster than on blackboard, right? The whiteboard, of course, it's easy, right? You can erase it. Erasing whiteboard is easier than erasing a chalkboard, right? And the point is that, of course, both are difficult to transport. Then we talked about flip charts, very important, right? In flip chart, generally, of course, you may not find in some big classrooms, but it is an essential part of a training room, right? Now, what is a flip chart, my dear students? It is a flip, that is a chart. You need a stand, fine, and of course you place some charts, and you can write on those charts, fine. In a group activity, these flip charts are important, right? If your power is not there, power failure is there, this flip charts can serve, right? Students can come forward and write on those flip charts, right? So for this word, you need a proper marker, proper pen to use it, in fact. And of course, it can easily be moved, transported, in fact, right, as compared to the chalkboard or the whiteboard, right? And it can be placed near the students. It can be moved away from the once it is not in use, right? So flip charts are important teaching aids. You need to learn how to use these flip charts. So flip charts, right? Important teaching aids. After flip charts, we started talking of what? OHP transparencies. Now, what are OHP transparencies? What does OHP stand for? Overhead projectors. What are transparencies? Yeah, a thin sheet. A transparent thin sheet. Clear? So, where can we use it? And what do we need for it? Yes, we need light, right? Power. It is power generated, of course. It needs power fine, to lit. Clear? And what do? We have to have transparencies, right? And for those transparencies, we can write on those transparencies. Fine? And we can get, print on those transparencies. Fine? The good point of this OHP is that it is what you can insert things, you can write things on the transparency. It is not very expensive. Fine? Just you need is what? A projector, and you need is what? Transparencies. And even once you make transparencies, that can serve for a year, right? Later you can redo them. And even though transparencies can be of course reused, and some say they can be reused, of course. One transparency is used, and by erasing the previous data, get it washed, and you can use it again, right? So transparencies were in, if you go back 5-6 years, but now of course they have been replaced by the other technology that we'll be talking about, right? So transparencies are there. Now maybe in your old classes it is part of every class, and the teachers of course used to have their own slides, and even teacher would write on those transparencies, right? Advantages, yes, not very expensive, you can use while teaching it, fine. And then of course also it is better than the whiteboard or what, the chalkboard, where things can be magnified, fine. For complicated details, for complex details, these transparencies can help you, in fact. Alright, now moving on to the next one, that is PowerPoint. Very important, right? PowerPoint presentations, multimedia is required, more expensive than the previous one, right? So for multimedia presentations, multimedia teaching, yes, it is the need of the time now. Now in every good institution you will find multimedia fixed, though it's hard to transport. When it is fixed, it's not heavy, of course, it's light. It is of course movable, you can move it, in fact, from one class to another. Generally, in fact, in training rooms it has been fixed, of course, but in small centers, small institutions, it can be moved from one room to another. What you need for it is, being teacher, of course, that if you're teacher of this language, so first of all you need to know what are the application softwares, right? And how can we use MS Word, how can we make slides on PowerPoint, right? So you need to know, you need to train yourself or have training on PowerPoint, on slide making, right? How to give a title to a slide, how to give subtitles to a slide, how to use background, how to number a slide, clear? How to give footnotes on the slide, how to set timings on the slide, clear? How to set the colors on the slides, in fact. So while teaching, these things are important. Maybe you will make presentations some these days, of course, my dear students, that once you apply for a job, the companies might ask you for presentations, and particularly for teaching jobs, they ask you for demonstration. So you have to demonstrate. And how you demonstrate? If you know how to work with this one. And every company expects you that you need to prepare your PowerPoint slides. Sometimes they don't ask you, but it is understood that the employee, the prospective employee, would bring PowerPoint, would make a lesson plan, he will teach, for example, right? So your teaching skills will be evaluated, and again your computer skills, and particularly for the ESP teaching, though for all level teaching, in fact, these days you know students that well, there are opportunities in business school, there are opportunities in economics school, there are opportunities in engineering schools, because it is HEC requirement, and every at bachelor's level, of course, you have to teach English, of course, you have to teach, English, freshman English, of course, you have to teach technical writing, technical English, and business communication. So for these things, particularly, you are expected that you know the computer, right? And of course, in computer particularly, you need to know how to make PowerPoint slides, right? So therefore, it is you can easily do it. It's not a big deal, right? I told you that when you start working on it, it helps you out. and hotkeys are there. For example, you're working on the PowerPoint, so when you open this, click, slides open with the title and subtitle. On title example, you say lecture number 15, and the subtitle, yes, effective teaching aids. You can move on. Control M for the next slide. Control M for the next slide. Control S to save the slide. Clear? You can name it and it is saved. I hope you understand. So very simple, in fact. More user friendly. And of course, in case of any problem, changes can be done there and then quickly, no problem. Right? So PowerPoint presentations and teaching particularly, and this aid, of course, I feel maybe for 5 years, for 10 years, right? So this aid will be helping you, of course, and later will be replaced by other technology. But nowadays, it's a high time that we being teachers, we must learn how to work on PowerPoint, particularly for the teaching purposes. For example, if you have a lesson plan, you can put different elements of lesson plan on your slide. Or you have a research demonstration, you have to defend your thesis. So again, this PowerPoint really helps you, in fact. Clear, students? So how to use PowerPoint, what are its advantages and disadvantages. Then we moved on to what? Call it Smartboard as well. Before Smartboard, we talk about videos, audios, right? CDs, for example. You have DVDs with you of this video lecture, right? So of course, if you have this audio or the video in the class, so you need to be clear how to use it, which part of which segment of that video to be used, and when to be used, how to be used. If you have a DVD, when to use, and censor the things before you use in the class. It's important. Sometimes you bring a video, so in the class you get embarrassed. So that's why every good teacher, whenever he brings something in the class, he needs to see it before he starts teaching, before he starts using it. I hope you understand. So this is my point, my dear students, that you see, when you are in fact using this CDs or DVDs in the class, you must be clear, right? That which audio part to be used, which video part to be used, and how to use. Is that clear? So this is what mean. It's very important. Then we move on to smart boards. Very important. Right? Now what is Smartboard? Of course mean, yes, in simple, internet linked board. Right? Where with a click you can go to different websites. It's more, of course, if you compare with others, yes, it is the best of all, but more expensive, not easy. Right? Very few schools in Pakistan, very few institutions have, of course, installed the smart boards, right? They cannot be transported. Fine, they're very expensive nowadays, of course. But after some time, once they will be in use, so of course things, they would not be very expensive in future. So smart boards are also important. Very important teaching aids for the future perspective, right? So we need to know how to use. Whenever you have an opportunity, learn this teaching aid, right? It's really important. Lastly, we talk about iPods, and we saw that sometime you can download some video lectures. Right? A series of lecture can be downloaded. Fine, and that can be used. Advantage is that if you are computer, if you are technology savvy, that you have to be. There is no way out. If you want to be a good teacher, you have to have tech savvy. If you don't want to be, you will. Now in this world of competition, if you don't, things would be tough for you. Right? So therefore, don't think that, of course, you are a simple language teacher and you don't need it. No, my dear students, there are scope for you people. Right? Even sometimes I say that you people have more scope than the other MBA people. Why? Because you can be, organizations can hire you, I tell you. Right? And for if somebody has MS, may not be hired by an organization because they have already hired their people. But if you are good at communication skills, and if you are good at teaching communication skills, you can avail this of course. Organization might need you, right? Provided, of course, you are good at that. So therefore, update yourself with the technology, right? Work on it and things would be in your favor. Now if you have any question, you can ask. Why do you use teaching aids? Good question. The very first slide, my dear students, I of course I want to refer you there that of course we use teaching aids to in fact improve their teaching process and again the learning process, right? Because understanding level of the student is definitely more when we use teaching aids. Without teaching aids, we might be in the air, right? So once you have a teaching aid in front of you and you use it well, so things can be easy for you and for your learners. Clear? Any other question? What does OHP stand for? Okay, good question, my dear students. I told you overhead projector, right? OHP. I showed you the picture of this. Yes, what do we use on it? Yes, we use on transparencies, rectangular transparencies. Any other question? Can we write on? Oh yes, we can write on it. If you write with multicolored ballpoints, that's easy. What is iPod? Okay, yes, podcast, of course, there are CDs of the programs, files that you can download. Any other question? Smartboard? Yes, I have just talked about smartboard. Internet linked boards, right? So it is advanced form of your boards. So students, this is the time to say goodbye to you. See you in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.